Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Meetle the Super Beetle. Last episode I showed you how I got the wheelbase to where I wanted it to be, and then I tacked it together. And on this episode I'm going to fully weld it all the way back together and start putting everything back together so I can have a driving Miata that is 6 inches longer. So there's a lot to do today, so let's get started. So you can see I've added some bars here to keep it a little stiffer while I work on it. And I've repositioned the jack stands and got a little higher off the ground, which will make it a little easier for me to install these. These are going to be the new frame rails, and they'll go right here. So the new frame rails will be right here, and they'll stop right here, because this is the beginning of the rear chassis rails, I call it, and it's what the subframe bolts to. And it is thicker sheet metal than the rest of the vehicle. And in the front, it's a similar story. It kind of just ends right there, but on the front. And that's where I'll connect to. Alright, my first task is to begin stripping the undercoating where I need the weld to. And it's gonna suck, because it's not a fun job, it's a dirty job. I'm going to use this knotted wire wheel, and hopefully it does a good job of making it easy to get it off. Okay, so I'm all ready now to put the frame rails in, and you know, it's not just as simple as, you know, lifting them up there and dropping them in. I'm gonna have to cut out just a little bit. I'm gonna have to, you know, do some shaping, do some cutting, do some metal work, and then I'm gonna have to weld in some captive nuts here for the cross member. That's the plan. Well, it took me all day to make them, but here are the new frame rails, and I'm pretty proud of them actually, because they fit perfectly. They fit like a glove. And I'll actually have to use a mallet to hammer them up in there. And there's holes here for spot welds. I'll be able to run welds on the edges here. And there's captive nuts here for the cross member, which will go right there. The cross member holds up the PPF. That's what that's for. And the only thing left to do now is to weld them in. Okay guys, these are the new frame rails. I just finished welding them in. And I don't know if you can tell, but it's super smoky in here. Thankfully there wasn't too much problems with things igniting. I did spray down the, I just kind of sprayed this down with water. And there's the ECU. I unplugged that first, of course. I mean, it was right there. It was right next to where I was welding. Definitely gotta unplug that. So there you have it. A unibody Miata with frame rails now. Alright, I am finally ready to get started on the floor pan. So this is the first piece I made up, and it's gonna slide in here like this. And it'll actually butt up against the frame rail here and against this angle iron here. And I got it sprayed down with some weld through primer, and that'll help keep the rust at bay. Is my hope. And let's get started. I'll show you the welds real fast. It's really ugly. It's ugly. There's a lot of holes. It's really thin metal. I think both metals are 22 gauge. I know I bought 22 gauge sheet metal. And not pretty, to be honest, but it'll have to do. Okay, got about half the floor pan installed, and like everything else, it's taking longer than I thought it would, and it's harder than I thought it would. And I used up all my welding gas. Now I have to go back to the shop and get some more welding gas, and it's not that cheap. Starting to learn these sort of things. But that'll be enough for this episode. So thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and catch you on the flip side.